Hello everyone. Today I'm going to provide brief training about using Covidence as a screening program to help with screening the search results for your systematic review. So Covidence is not free. You could request a free trial and it is possible to contact them if you are a student to ask for a free project. But mainly if you want to use Covidence in long term, it is better to get subscription. But before getting that, you need to know what is in it. And I'm going to show you what is in it and how you can use it efficiently. So I'm going to sign in because we do have access. And after signing in, I could see the list of my reviews. Obviously, if you have a review, if you don't have one, you could create one by clicking Start a New Review. It asks if you are creating a Cochrane review, and if it is, you could say yes, or you could say no, it is something that I'm doing for outside Cochrane. So I'm just naming the review Test Review, and I choose the type of review, a systematic review. Obviously you have the options for rapid review, umbrella review, literature review, or others. And the area, I'm choosing medical and health sciences. And it has automation option here. So it uses machine learning using Cochrane RCT classifier. And if you are doing a systematic review of randomized controlled trials, you could ask the system to tag the references that are almost surely or highly likely randomized controlled trials to be tagged or labeled as randomized controlled trials. And it is very accurate. I mean, it's quite accurate, as accurate as human almost. And it's a good option to choose if you are working on systematic reviews of randomized controlled trials. Obviously, I'm not. So it has two options: one, tagging randomized controlled trials, and the other one is removing their references that are not randomized controlled trials. I'm not going to use them, but it is good to know that the options are there, and it's very helpful. I mean, this is part of the automation that has progressed in the systematic review more than other fields, so we could actually recognize randomized controlled trials rapidly. And then I'm choosing the account that I'm going to use to create, because I have unlimited access to create reviews, and then I say create the review. Okay, so the title that I've chosen is not unique enough. Apparently someone has used it for training per. I don't know that purposes, maybe someone else has chosen that one as well. So we go with create review. And there you go, I've got the review created, and the name of the review you can see on top, test review for training per. So you have several options here. So you have review settings, and in review settings you obviously change the options that you've chosen. You still can use the automation programs. You could add extra information about search date, search strategy, if you have a review citation, or if you're updating a previous review. And this is the important part: reviewers required for screening. We usually require 2 people to do the title and abstract screening, also full text screening, it is the usual practice and the best practice. But it happens that because of the type of the review that you are doing, maybe you are doing a literature review on your own, or a scoping review, or you have limited resources, it sometimes is possible to have one reviewer for title and abstract screening or full text screening. It is not recommended, but when you have no resources, what is the choice? So you could actually change it to 1 or 2. Some people prefer to do double screening for title and abstract, and then when it comes to full text, use a single person. That is the choice. And then it asks you to choose one of the existing data extraction forms. Obviously it is relevant to those who want to use Covidence for data extraction. If you're not going to use Covidence for data extraction, it doesn't matter which option you are choosing. I just wanted to show you this one because this is the important part. And then the reviewers, you have the option here to invite other reviewers. You could invite as many reviewers as you want. It is not always the reviewers. Some of the people that you are inviting might be supervisors. Some of them could be students who want to just watch and learn. Supervisors may just check the progress to see how it goes, or project manager. They may not touch screening, but they need to know how it goes on and if there is any problem that they need to tackle. Team setting. So here you can see the progress of the title and abstract screening, and full text and extraction as well. Obviously we don't have anything. And here, eligibility criteria, you can add your inclusion and exclusion criteria, which is by default has been set based on the PICO framework, PICOS framework. And you could add this information. The importance of this information is that when there are lots of criteria, or there is accurate reporting of exclusion, you may need a guide, like checking. If there's lots of criteria, you need to check the criteria. Sometimes you see a record, you are not sure if you are going to exclude or include because you are not sure if it meets one of the exclusion criteria. So you can open and read the exclusion criteria, which is quite useful. So that is the section that I would say is really good. You could just copy and paste from your protocol. And then study tags. So tagging or labeling is something that is very important if you are doing a good systematic review, because as you screen and go ahead, tagging the records based on the topic that they are covering, or name of the intervention or population, or any specific data points that you are very interested in, is helpful. As soon as you finish the screening or you are in the middle of it, you could look at the tags and you would know how many reports exist for a particular tag. It kind of will give you the overview or a map of the evidence that you are dealing with. I have already explained about this missing step. Obviously, none of the systematic review handbooks or books are referring to labeling or tagging, but it is a parallel step for the record screening or title abstract screening. I would say that Ryan is better than Covidence for labeling or tagging, but still Covidence is providing that option. By default, it has two options: awaiting classification and ongoing study. If I was doing epidemiological study, I probably would add the country names here or continent names here. If you were doing a broad systematic review of multiple interventions, you probably would prefer to add the names of interventions here, so that before including a study, you could just add the tag and then include it. So some people don't use it at all. Some people really love using this feature. But so this is the general overview of the settings that you have. But as you can see, this review is empty. There is nothing in it. What I'm gonna do is to import the references. So I go to import. It says you want to import it to what stage. I want to screen them, so I'm importing them to screen. It is possible to import them to other sections if you've done part of the work outside Covidence and you want to transfer it into Covidence. These options are really useful. So I say I want to screen. What is the source? Because I have done the collection of the search results for multiple databases outside Covidence in EndNote, I don't need to choose it, and it says it's optional. And the reason is that some people use Covidence to just put the search results from every single database here and then run the de-duplication or removing duplicates here. I don't do that because experience tells me that EndNote is the best program to do de-duplication. That's why before uploading the file here, I have already removed the duplicates. But obviously, Covidence is good as well because it could detect some of the duplicates that you may have missed if you have used EndNote. So I choose the file and then you can see the name of file here, and then I could say import. Just a quick note that the file formats that Covidence can accept is EndNote XML. As you can see, actually EndNote is so important that even Covidence accepts this format, PubMed format and RIS format, which is kind of a global standard format for citation information. But anyway, I'm going to just import the file, and hopefully, and I'm always hopeful that it's not going to take long, but I consider that it is 5,000 references, and it may take a while to get uploaded. If so, I will pause this video and will not waste your time, but it is gone. It's gone through. A bit of explanation about what is happening now. Now that Covidence is importing these references, one thing to check is the numbers. So you need to know what's the number of references that you are importing and what's the number that you are going to get from here. If the numbers are not matching, there is an error in your import file. It's very likely because sometimes the titles are very long, or there is something in the title, a character that the Covidence could not parse. So you need to find and correct that error before importing. But what I've done is that I usually put the date of the search and the number of the references. So it's 5,337, so that I could check here. And obviously Covidence has got it right. So it is now gradually importing. I'm going to pause the video until it has imported it completely. As you can see, it's progressing. Okay, it is done. It took about 6 minutes, and because I had nothing better to do while waiting, what I did, I calculated the speed of importing, and it seems that Covidence can import 15 references or records per second, which is slightly slower than Ryan, but 6 minutes is not long, so you could say 1,000 records could be imported in 1 minute. So if you have longer, let's say bigger file, longer list of results, you could estimate how long it's gonna take if you want to grab a coffee while it is doing it, or have a chit chat with your colleagues if you prefer that. Or do both, and now it is there. So you can see that what is the next stage. As soon as the import is finished, you will be directed here, and I can see that the number of references that I imported is different from what I see here, and the reason is that there are 2 references automatically detected as duplicates. Why only 2? Because I've removed majority of them in EndNote. So I'm gonna check these 2 to see if the machine was right. As you can see, so the first one, the title is almost same. When I move to the journal is different. I can guess that this one probably is the full text full paper, and this one is a conference abstract, or both of them could be conference abstracts. I haven't seen full text, but I could say that this is not a duplicate because the journal is different. And one thing to remember about the duplication process in Covidence, that it is quite good for the title and the authors, but it ignores the journal and the page numbers. So you need to remember that. So when Covidence detects that these are the duplicates, you always check that they are. So I'm going to tell that this is not a duplicate. The next one I'm looking at similar. There are 2 different journals with different page numbers. They could be really, one of them probably is conference abstract, the other one full text, or it might be something published into a journal. Who knows? I can't tell, but I know that it is not a duplicate. So I'm just gonna say not a duplicate. And then I could just get back. And now I've got the full number. So it means that I've done good job in EndNote, removing the duplicates. There was no duplicates. So at this stage, so if you import more files, you will see them here. There are details. And you could always check the duplicates, so it is very useful. But also you can start screening finally. and there's a team setting here in case you change your mind from 2 reviewers to 1 reviewer. But anyway, you could continue screening. So at the screening stage, you have 4 tabs. One of them is the references that you need to screen, which is completely, I haven't touched anything. Resolve conflicts. That happens when 2 reviewers do not agree on one decision. One of them says include, the other one says no, it should be excluded. And then they will appear here, and after the screening is finished, the 2 reviewers talk to each other, discuss it, and to resolve it. And if they couldn't resolve it, they ask a third person, who is usually a senior reviewer, to help them. If none of them could decide, they could just accept it and move it to the next stage to look at the full text. So if they couldn't resolve the conflict, it should be included. The other one is awaiting other reviewer. These are the records that have been checked, screened by only 1 reviewer, and the second reviewer has not touched it, because we've said that we are going to have 2 reviewers. If you had 1 reviewer, you didn't have this here, you didn't have this option here, but we've said that we have 2 reviewers. And then we have irrelevant references, which are obviously the ones that both reviewers have excluded. So if I make a decision here, let's say, I read this one, doesn't have abstract, I need to just look at the title, and based on that, I could say that it is not relevant, so I say no. And then the next one, I look at it, and I think it is not relevant, I say no. And I could continue like that. I could say this one is yes, this one is yes. So one thing that you may have noticed is that this number is not changing. So sometimes it happens, don't worry if it's not changing. You are doing a session, you could just continue doing what you are doing. And if you want to see, probably refreshing might help. So you can see that now it has changed, the numbers have changed, but I wouldn't refresh each time. I don't mind that the number is not updating constantly. It would have been good, but it is not. That's okay. Every program has glitches, as long as they are not annoying. So I can see that now my 6 decisions are here, and requires the second person to check. So that's that. But if we just look at here, just to see what options we've got here, we've got filter option, and that is very helpful. You could type in something and ask Covidence to show you only the records that contain what you typed in. Where should that word appear? You could tell that I want it to appear in title abstract, authors fuzzy search, obviously is exact search, and then everything. So you could actually search something in entire records here, and then just see the records that contain that. So I could, for example, search for K13, and then I say filter, and then it will filter the records that contain K13 for me, so I could just look at them if I want. In title and abstract, obviously. So if I change to everything, it will filter the records that have K13 on everywhere. So I just get rid of it. I say clear to get back to where I was. So that is one use. So I'm closing it now. Another use is that if you tick box one of these records, or more than one, the tags will become active. Now it is inactive. As soon as you tick one, it becomes active. You could assign a tag here. If it is not there in your list, you could just create it here. You don't have to create in the beginning of review that I showed you. You could also create a new tag here. So I'm adding K13 and I say create. And then it automatically adds it there. Select the next one. I choose K13 and I don't need to be worried. I just click outside, and if I go down here, it will be added here. So that's good. That labeling is help. And the next time that you open the tags that you've created will be added to the list of your tags. So that is a good one. And then if you're not sure that a record meets the criteria or not, you've forgotten criterias, or it's a long list, you need to check them, you could just add criterias here, and then after that you could see the criterias. You could open and see the criteria. So the option that we have here beside tags is criteria, that if you have long list of criteria, you could just copy and paste them as I showed you in the setting, and then it will display here. So I added malaria as my healthcare problem, chloroquine as my intervention, and K13 as other, and that is the criteria that you could check in case you are not sure if a record meets the criteria or not. It's a reminder here. And then you have the option add highlights, and that is important to get the words that you want highlighted. So I go to add highlights. Unfortunately, some people just come here like I used to do and add the words here, and they think that they are going to be highlighted. They are not. So to do the highlights, you need to go to highlights here and add the word malaria. I'm adding as inclusion, and I'm adding chloroquine, and I'm adding K13, and then I press done. So what happens now, if I get back to continue my screening, it has the option now, instead of add highlights, it has the option show highlights, and I'm gonna click it. So if I scroll down a bit, you can see that malaria is highlighted, malaria chloroquine is highlighted in green, and if I add exclusion criteria, they will be highlighted in red. So as you can see, it is easier to spot the words and decide, and I have K13 here highlighted as well. So that is helpful. And then if it is too annoying, if you have a lot to see, you could just hide them. There's an option for hiding abstracts. It is sometimes useful in case you want to load the references, because there is an option to show more than 25, but as you load the references, there is an option more, and if you continue and continue and continue, what happens that after probably 2 or 3, let's say 100 or 400, it becomes slow to load it because the scroll bar is getting longer and longer. So one way to make it shorter is to hide the abstract in case you just want to load more references. For example, if you want to select all of them later and apply a tag. So when you select all and apply a tag, it will not apply to all of your 5000 record. It will only apply to the records that you are seeing on this screen. That is an important thing to remember. So to load more and more records, you can just hide the abstracts to reduce the system's, let's say, memory use and the browser's workload. So some people use that. But it's a good option to have. And you have display options that you could display 100. That's usually good enough, 100. But also you have the option to sort the records. And this is very important because up until a few weeks ago or a few months ago, we only had 3 options here: author, title, and most recent. And most recent doesn't mean the publication year. It means most recently imported reference. So just to resolve that confusion, when you are choosing author, it will be based on the last name of the first author, and it is always from A to Z. You cannot do Z to A. It's always A to Z. It's similar with the title. It is A to Z. You cannot do Z to A. It's not possible. And the most recent has nothing to do with publication date. As you can see, we have 2011 here. So it is the most recently imported references, not most recently published. So that is a confusion to remember. And then we have most relevant, that we didn't have it. That's new. And how Covidence would know what is relevant? It's a machine learning. It will learn from your decisions. And then you, based on that, you could just have the most relevant records on top. I'm going to say this is relevant. Actually, this is relevant. This one is relevant. So I would say, and by default, it is set on most relevant. So it uses machine learning based on the decisions that you already made to sort the records and show you the relevant ones on top. So it is good option, because it means that after screening 10% to 20% of the records, you probably have screened the majority of the relevant ones. But there are a few things to remember. The first one is that majority of machine learning programs are English biased. So if you have records that are not in English, I wouldn't recommend to trust the machine learning for screening them. So if we have a Chinese record here that is 100% relevant, it probably will be at the end of the list of 5,000. That's simple. So that is something to remember. It is not good for non-English stuff. The second thing to remember is it works best if you have a complete record, and by complete record, the records that have title and abstract. That is also something to remember. It works better for the records that are complete, they have title and abstract. If a record has got only title or only abstract, which happens occasionally because of the error or anything, it cannot decide as good as it can for the complete records. And the number three, and the most important one, any systems rule, garbage in, garbage out. So the input that you give to machine learning, your decisions, are the reason that it considers this record to be relevant. So if you are not a good screener, a good reviewer, you don't have the knowledge, you are suspicious and you are sensitive and you are scared to remove the records and make a lot of bad decisions, like this record, for example, is irrelevant, but because I'm a bad reviewer, I may say that maybe, or I make a lot of maybe decisions, or a lot of mistakes like saying no or yes, while the answer should be otherwise. So the machine learning then model that is created is going to be confused. So its relevancy ranking is going to be a mess. So the machine that learns from human is as good as the human that teaches the machine. So that is also something to remember. If you want to use this option, it is very important that you have a good reviewer screening. So this is almost most of the things that you need to know to go ahead with the screening. And as you can see, it has got also a history option here. You could always mark them as duplicate, and you have the option to add note for the other reviewers in case you want them to know something. And yeah, if you're interested in trying it, you could contact them, ask for a free trial. I'm sure they will be helpful. So the support team that Covidence has got is better than any other automation program that I have ever seen. So that is something to say. Thank you to their support team. Whatever question I had, they have either answered, or whatever problem I had, they have solved. And I had a few suggestions based on the other automation programs, and I have provided my suggestions to them, and they have shared it with their development team. And I hope that they will make some changes to this program to make it more user-friendly and more useful. And at the end, you have the option for Prisma. This option will be very accurate if you are using Covidence for de-duplication as well. Otherwise, you need to amend what you are getting from the Prisma diagram that Covidence provides you. And at the end, when you are done, you have the export option, so you could get the references out of here for the other purposes, such as writing the review and using them as citation, or if you want to import it to another program for data extraction, such as Redcap or Excel. Some people prefer Excel or Word. But anyway, this is generally a very user-friendly program, a very simple program to use. You could play around and find your way around it, and I hope that you have enjoyed it. Do not forget to have a look at this blog post about why labeling or tagging is good for majority of systematic reviews. And I hope to see you in the next video. Thank you.